Today we're going to talk, it's a video response, and it wasn't requested by the person I'm responding to, but I would call it kind of an accountability video. I've been stewing over this back and forth for days, trying to figure out, should I do it, should I not? And I cannot get away from the fact that I feel like I need to. We as shooters, and I'm not going to say I'm an experienced shooter, I've been concealed carrying for 8 years, really seriously though, maybe for about 1.5 years, where I just realized I need to carry my gun as much as possible. Not just when I go to a dangerous city or, well, you know, we're going here where there's a lot of people. Basically having that gun on me as much as possible. And so, you know, those types of people have got a responsibility, especially when they are former law enforcement officers or active, former military or active. And my video response is to Wild Bill for America. And Wild Bill, I've been a subscriber of his on YouTube. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to call him Bill. I've been a subscriber of his along with, I think, 41,000 people. I have been for the better part of 1 year, maybe 2, and he's got some great political insight, some good commentary there, anti-liberal commentary, which is great. It's right down my line. You can bash Obama and Hillary anytime you want. You're not going to hurt my feelings. So what he did, though, he posted a video. It came across my subscriptions, and it said, "Dump the Glocks." And I'm thinking, that's strange. Maybe he's talking about the federal government, because this guy was a former deputy U.S. Marshal. So maybe he's thinking he doesn't like Glocks for them or something. I don't know, but of course it piqued my interest because I happen to like Glocks. So I click on the video, and he tells a story how he has a liberal, either friend or a subscriber. That part's irrelevant, but a liberal told him that not all of us are anti-gun. This liberal went on to say that he has a revolver and he has a Glock 17. Bill's response was to keep the revolver, basically saying, I'm going to paraphrase, saying that revolvers are the greatest thing in the history of the world, but the Glocks are junk and they're unsafe. Now, don't stop watching this video thinking, oh, brother, it's a Glock fanboy and you know, he's offended. It has nothing to do with this video. If you guys have seen my gun bashing video, I say do not bash one brand over another, to try them out, to shoot them, to do your research, and then settle on what works for you. And I still believe that. Glocks happen to work for me. They're reliable. I work on them very easily. They're simple to use. They're accurate. They work repeatedly, reliably, nonstop. And that's my experience with them. So that's why I like Glocks. But as I said in other videos also, I've owned SIGs and Rugers, and my son actually owns an M&P Shield, and I've shot that. It's a great gun, and I would carry it. I would have no trouble carrying that gun whatsoever. So in this video, anyway, Bill cites some links, and he posts some links. When people start commenting, refuting, he's saying that Glocks are unsafe and all the NDs and everything else with them. And when he posts these links, there's 4 of them, I believe, citing how dangerous Glocks are. 2 of them in the link itself actually say, basically implicate foreign objects as responsible. One was a holster, which I think we've all heard about. It was a worn holster with a little flap that stuck into the trigger guard. And so when the guy reholstered, the gun discharged. It's designed to discharge with something's in the trigger guard. That's the design of a gun. The other one was the little plastic piece on a drawstring on a jacket, and they got caught in the trigger guard when reholstering. Now, neither one of those are accidental. Those are not accidental whatsoever. Accidental is if the gun somehow fires by itself or when it's dropped or something like that. Negligence is what those are, because when you reholster your gun, you as a shooter are responsible to check that holster and make sure it's clear before you put the gun back in it. Now, 2 things I agree with Bill on in this video. I'm going to go ahead and get those out of the way. Number 1 is that Glocks will absolutely fire themselves if you don't put anything in the trigger. They are inherently dangerous guns. I own a Glock 23, a Glock 19, and a Glock 43, which I have on me. As a matter of fact, this is a loaded, hot Glock 43. Pistol is completely loaded. And I'm just going to take a second here. I want you to watch. It's going to fire here in a second. And I'm aiming right up in my bedroom. I'm in my garage, and our master bedroom's above here. So Anytime I should be putting a round through my bedroom. Hold on, just wait a second. Yeah, it usually goes off quicker than this. Hang on. While we're waiting for it to discharge, my son's Glock 27 and my daughter's 42, they also go off all the time. We have had them in a holster and placed them on the counter, and we have to make sure they're pointing in a safe direction because they fire all the time by themselves. It is the most ridiculous thing ever. My next point that I agree with Gaston, just give it time. It'll go. It'll go. I mean, my finger is outside of the trigger guard, but it's going to fire because it's a dangerous gun. Just give it time. While we're waiting though, Gaston Glock is also the only gun designer ever to design a pistol where if something gets inside the trigger guard, even if it's not a finger, that it fires. When the trigger is pressed to the back, Gaston Glock is the only gun designer to ever make a gun go off when that happens. So those two things I agree with Bill on in his video. Okay, I guess it's not going to go off by itself. I was wrong. So I apologize there, guys. Hopefully you detected the sarcasm because I was laying it on pretty thick. Glocks are not inherently unsafe. One of the geniuses who posted below in support of Bill's video said, this is funny, now listen. He said, Bill, I agree with you 100%. My wife and I sold our Glocks and we went with a SIG P320. Now I owned a SIG P320 and have videos shooting it. It's a fantastic firearm. I love it. But I sold it to get my 19. Those of you who are thinking right now, wait a minute, isn't a SIG P320 a striker fired gun? Why yes, it actually is. And the design is almost identical to that of a Glock. Yet below this comment that this guy posts, Wild Bill says, I love the SIGs. Now in Bill's antiquated thinking, he's thinking that SIGs are all double to single action. It's not true, which fully displays his lack of understanding and knowledge of modern day firearms. And it's really important, if you're going to make videos to bash a certain firearm, you better know your stuff, or you're going to look really, really ignorant to people who do know their stuff. Can there be mechanical flaws or issues with guns? Sure. With anything mechanical, you can have issues, which brings me to the point of safeties. You better pray to God, you guys who use a safety, that thing disengages if you ever have to pull that gun and go to work. And you also better understand, don't depend on that safety and say, I thought the safety was on. I'm not interested in safeties. I'm interested in not having one so that I can understand how important it is to keep my finger in any foreign object out of that trigger. One major difference, though, I will say, that goes back to the SIG P320 comment. Here's the funny thing. SIG P320 is a striker-fired gun, but not only is it a striker-fired gun, there's no trigger safety on it. The little blade safety like a Glock has and Taurus and M&P and those type of guns, there's no blade safety on it. So there's no trigger safety, which theoretically, according to Bill's theory, his thinking would make it easier to discharge putting it back in a holster or getting a foreign object in that trigger guard because there's no trigger safety. Now I had this SIG P320 and I can tell you that trigger is nice and smooth and it's easy to pull. You got to keep your finger out of the trigger guard. I put thousands of rounds, a couple thousand rounds through mine in the few months I had it. It's a great gun. It never went off by itself. Not one time. Not one time. So I'm going to close with this. Accountability is very important to me. I've taught my kids about accountability. I've been taught accountability. I attend a church where our pastors, senior pastors and staff are big on accountability. And I think that's really important to understand. When you mess up, admit that you messed up. Here's the deal. I provided facts. I tried to show different situations, different things, facts, information that would show that, Bill, you're wrong. Just admit that you're wrong. Be humble, be a mature man, and understand, you know what, my lack of knowledge on modern guns, because I was a law enforcement officer way back in the day, so my knowledge is antiquated. I need to update it before I open my mouth and bash firearms. Yeah, I apologize, guys. I should not have done this video. Well, instead, in his arrogance, he says that a Glock Part 2 video is coming. That should be really interesting with more idiocy spewed all over the internet. So what I would encourage you guys to do is if you hear bad information, you don't have to be a jerk about it. Basically, by the way, my comments were all deleted on Bill's video. He deleted all of my comments because they were true, and they proved him to be ignorant, with firearms, from nowadays, and he doesn't know what he's talking about, and he couldn't handle that in front of his audience. So he kept all of his sheeple comments, all of his little sheep that follow him around blindly down below, and then I just went ahead and just unsubscribed to the guy. So he showed his true colors. He showed his arrogance and his insistence on saying Glocks are junk, they're unsafe, and all of you are wrong. Look at these little videos, look at these websites where it shows that Glocks are bad. Now, statistically speaking, here's my last thing that I'm going to close with. Statistically speaking, 65% of law enforcement worldwide use Glocks. It stands to reason that when you hear of a gun accident with law enforcement, there's a good chance it's going to be a Glock. If 65% of all of the vehicles on the road were red Ford F-150 pickup trucks, wouldn't it stand to reason that a higher percentage of accidents on the road would be red Ford F-150 pickup trucks? That's late elementary school, early middle school logic. It's something that I like to call common sense. You start thinking about percentages, and then it makes sense. We have a responsibility to put out good information, not BS, not lies, not cherry-picked information from certain little websites, and not certainly our opinion unless we state it as opinion. Bill's video did not do that. Bill's video was flat out saying Glocks are unsafe and they're junk, you need to get rid of them. This gun is better, Glocks are junk. Revolvers are better, Glocks are junk. It's just not true. And Bill, I'm holding you accountable here. Whether you accept it or not, it doesn't matter. You're wrong, and the rest of the gun world who understands how modern striker-fired guns is right.